Hey, everybody. How you doing? I hope you're having a wonderful day, evening, wherever you are listening or watching this podcast. So we're well into the summer. Let me start by saying I've got a great guest for you today on the show, and really excited to talk to him. First time on Ike Live. We're old guys now, both of us. I've known this guy for seems like a super long time, but I've got Terry Brown, good friend, joining us on the show. You know Terry from Wired to Fish and other things. And we're going to be talking to him about some stuff that you probably didn't know. And I'm excited to speak with him about that. Just a little catch up for you guys. It's been, I'd say it's been a fairly busy summer. We've got a couple elite events left. Very excited to hopefully end the season on a good note. I'm finally catching fish again, which feels nice. Also, we've got a couple Ike Foundation updates for you real quick. If you've been following along over there, they're doing a great job getting new kids fishing. And we have a kayak event coming up in September. If you're a kayak angler, come out and fish this event. We got some great prizes. We're giving away a Hobie kayak for first place, plus a lot of other stuff. But here's the deal. All the proceeds go toward getting kids fishing, especially kids in untraditional areas. So come on up. It's back at Lake Nakamixon in Pennsylvania. It's a great event. You could check it out at IkeFoundation.org. Also, I have on my notes from Becky, one kids tournament left, also coming up in September, and that is on Newton Lake. We not only need participants. If you're watching this and you have a kid that wants to go fish it, you have a kid that's never fished a day in his life, bring him out. But also we need some boat captains. So if you're watching and you have a John boat, a bass boat, whatever you have, saltwater boat, we don't care, and you want to help get a kid fishing, come on out. That's in September at Newton Lake. Both those events, head over to IkeFoundation.org and get more information. All right. Before we get Terry on, one other thing. ICAST happened, and cannot tell you how much positive feedback I had on the new format of the show, the 2.0 format, which is a more up close and personal one-on-one interviews, one-on-one discussions. I'm having a blast doing this style podcast. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm so happy you guys are enjoying it. So thank you to everyone at ICAST who stopped by and said, we love the new format. So I appreciate that. All right. I want to get right to it. I'm going to plug him in here. Joining us now. And we're going to find out how long he's been in industry, because I feel like it may even be longer than me. We've got my friend, probably one of the best guys I know in the fishing industry, Terry Brown, joining us right now on Ike Live. Terry!
I'm here.
How you doing?
I'm doing really good. After going to ICAST and getting the Haitian flu or whatever the heck it was, I still got it, man. When was ICAST? Like a year ago, and I still got the stupid crud. I don't know what's going on.
That's crazy.
Old age, dude.
That's crazy. Nah, it's. I can tell you the one thing that always happens and still happens to me is when you travel as much and do speaking engagements, and we go so far back that I remember doing like the Chicago show, and I was still like young, like I was still green, like not even like, giving a presentation and not even feeling confident. I was young, and it's like every year, that time of the year, when it came to December, January, February, be show season, right? Be show season. And dude, I'd be down and out every time, just from the travel and meeting people. And there was no way around it. I think it's the same now.
Yeah, well, we're a bunch of huggers anyway, and that doesn't help. The Chicago show, you didn't have to worry about getting anything because there was no one there. I mean, you could shoot a gun down any aisle and you wouldn't have hit anybody. I mean, that was back when it was called something else. It had a different name. I've known you, I think, from Federation even.
Oh yeah.
That I've been doing this a long time, probably longer than most, and it's funny because there's not a lot of guys my age that are still out here digging around. And, you got George Kramer out west, and you got several other guys that are been doing this. But I've been doing this, gosh, I think since I wrote for Bass Times. That really what first thing I did was doing radio programs and sports and stuff like that before that. But always felt like that I wanted to get bigger in the industry. There was a lady named Ann Lewis. I don't know if you remember her or not, Mike.
Sure do.
Wonderful, wonderful PR lady at Bass. And she called me one day and she said, "You need to come to the Classic." Well, I'd been to all the Classics, except, they had the All-American and all that stuff that Ray did before. But when they started being Classics, I went. Well, she said, "Come as our guest." So I went and did radio and stuff for him and all that kind of stuff back then. Long time ago now, man. I had black hair then. I still have a little bit of black hair, but for the most part, gray. And you are. I want to make sure I do this because this is important to me. Congratulations on the Hall of Fame. It means
Thank you.
a lot. I think that there's nobody that I've met in this sport, and sometimes you were maligned because of it. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
But you changed the way anglers are looked at, and it's not a guy sitting with a glob of dew worms on a bucket. And you changed that. You changed that entire attitude and disposition of fishing, and you need a lot of credit for that because I think single-handedly you changed the sport.
Man, I appreciate that. That means a lot, really a lot coming from you. I tell you, we've known each other for a long time, and I'll flip it back on you, Terry. I'm going to flip it back on you right now and tell you, I feel the same about you. Honestly, I kind of, when I first started, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. So our interactions and our early interviews and that stuff, man, it sort of set me in a direction of what I needed to do, how I needed to present myself. And I think you did things from a media perspective, from a radio, TV perspective that weren't being done at the time. And I'll flip it back on you and say thank you for helping grow the sport too, because it's not a bunch of, bass fishing for a long time was stereotyped. And I'm so glad that we're able to burst out of the bubble.
We are. And I mean, there's a lot of growing pains left. I remember Denny Brower. Denny Brower is a dear friend of mine, of yours too. And he told me one time, he said, "I don't know if we got any growth left." And this is a few years ago. And I said, "No, we got to, and that's when we started high school fishing and we did a lot of that other stuff, which we're into. But, it's amazing to me, the energy and the youth now. And the only thing I'm really concerned about is the bending of rules and some of the stuff that's going on there. But I think ultimately, if we stick to our guns, there is a black and white in the world, believe it or not. I know everybody wants all the people in the world want to think there's a lot of gray. I don't think so when it comes to fishing. And but I think there's a lot of room for growth yet, and I'm kind of excited to be still doing this deal. Really.
Yeah, it's awesome. I want to jump back even further though. Like, did you see this coming? Like when you were, I know you've got a degree. I think you have a radio TV background, and did you see it coming? Like, I want to know. I want to get in your mind when you were a junior at university, and were you thinking, man, I'm going to get in the fishing industry. I'm going to change the way information is put out there. Was that going through your mind, or hell no? Were you partying? Were you?
No, it's a great question because, I was an athlete, believe it or not. You can't look at me now and know that, but I played center field in college and in high school, and I played basketball in college. And I'm a giant, so that was a kind of a
right.
I played a lot of sports, and then I started doing radio. I did this thing outdoors in McLean County, then I did Outdoors in America, then I did all this other stuff. But I always knew in the back of my mind, even when I worked in the corporate world, this is where I really belonged. And I think I did. I think it was not something where I had a premonition or, I had a crystal ball or anything like that. But I just knew we had more. I knew there was more. And I'm telling you, I mean this sincerely. I think you changed a lot of things. That stereotype that we've always had in fishing, the bubble in the bucket. I just think that you changed that. And then all of a sudden youth gets involved.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times I've been around you or been around a lot of the other guys that are standing in a downpour, signing autographs for kids and stuff. That changed it. And when I was in college, I was a radio and television major, had a PR minor, and went to Illinois State. And it was one of those things where I knew we had something better we could be doing. And I always had a love for fishing. My dad used to take me to Harold's Pond, and it's right now, I don't even think it's a pond anymore, but it was this little bitty, not even an acre. And we would have first fish, biggest fish, and then we'd go to Hump's gas station and get a frozen candy bar, a zero, and something to drink. And that was always what we did on the weekends. And my dad really got me going on it. My dad's still around. He's 90 now, but he still gets around. And those are the memories that I have that I knew if I could just get kids doing it, if I could,
Yeah.
just, when we started high school, it's been a long time ago, dude. It's been 2000. I mean, I did 9 proposals to get an association, Illinois High School Association, to do high school fishing.
Right.
And I know that 8 of them went in the garbage can.
Right directly into the garbage can.
Yeah, you could hear the shredder going. You could hear the shredder running. You could hear it. But a funny story is I had one of the associate executive directors there was a friend. And I took him fishing one day. And I think God has a way of working into this some way. But I took him fishing. We wrecked him. We were catching 5-pounders, 6-pounders. In Illinois,
Yeah.
It was just one of those killer days. And he's in the car with me coming back to my office. And it sounded like a 3rd grade girl. And
Wow.
I looked at him and I said, you don't suppose we could get kids enthused about this, do you? And he said, send me the proposal again. So I sent him the proposal.
Wow.
The first line in the proposal is one you'll love. It said, every kid I get fishing is one less I have to worry about breaking into my car. And that sold it. That sold it. They put it to the board. And we were the first association Illinois was. There was other clubs and stuff like that. But never an association who embraced it and said fishing should be a sport. That's when I knew we had it. If I had any legacy in my life, that is the most important legacy I leave, is the fact that we've got high school kids fishing. Kids that didn't give a rip about their high school.
Yeah.
Wearing logos and stuff. It's great.
It's an amazing story. And I've never heard that story told before. All the years I've known you, I didn't know that exact story. But I think it's hard. There's a lot of people watching this, Terry, right now and listening to this, and they're saying, there was a time before high school and college fishing? And they're right now they're dumbfounded that there was a time before that existed. And I want to throw some stats at you, because I have a 12-year-old right now that is nuts about it. And he's been in the junior nationals the last couple of years. They had over 200 boats at the junior nationals. I was there captain them at Hartwell. The very next week, they had over 400 high school teams competing at the junior nationals. You go to places like Louisiana and Texas and Florida, regularly over 400 to 500, 600 boats of kids competing. Does that blow you away? It has to, because it blows me away to think about a time when it didn't exist. Zero. and then you flash forward to now, and there's this energy and excitement. And I was at the meeting at Vegas's junior national meeting, and dude, these kids are pumped up. Terry, I know you've been at these events, dude. It's like being at a soccer tournament or a baseball tournament, and that energy is there in the sport that we love. Is that incredible?
Yeah,
that's incredible.
It is. Here's the thing: we are reaching kids that are athletes, which no question. One of the first mantras I had was it had to be cool. Because if kids were looked down, if people looked down their nose at somebody that was a fisherman, I knew we wouldn't be successful. So I said it had to be cool. Yeah. Well, at that time, you were involved in this, was ESPN had that block on Saturday morning.
Oh, yeah.
And they had this tech block, and they had all this other kind of stuff. Well, the first year we had the state championship, they came and filmed the 2 state champions. I didn't have to do anything else to make it cool, because on Saturday morning, here's 2 kids from Southern Illinois who just won the Illinois High School State Championship. Then it became cool. And,
wow.
The thing that I think is important is the juniors and the high school and the colleges. At the time when I started high school fishing, or was involved in the association getting involved, there was probably about 60 colleges that had programs in. Now look at it. It's growing like gangbusters too. So
giant.
Let me give you a negative. I think 480 boats is too many.
And Becky and I have had this conversation that there has to be a happy medium somewhere, because the amount of pressure, the vast amount of pressure, it does have negatives, right? Not only to the fishery, but the competitors, right?
Yeah, you can pull in a cove and there's 27 boats in the cove. That's not good. We started in Illinois. We had 2,400 kids first year, and we're over 25,000 now. So that's in a very short period of time. And I think it's going to get bigger. The only thing that the association doesn't do that now we've got leagues that do is have fishing in the summer and that kind of stuff. I mean, the high school association, they got a regional, a sectional, and then they go to state tournament, all that. That's it. That's all it is for that.
Right.
But now you've got these associations like ICAST at Illinois. There's a lot of places, I know North Carolina, Texas, you mentioned them. gigantic, but we don't have the fisheries that can support it. Here's the
Right.
other thing. I don't think kids should be paying. And I said
Right.
that in the beginning. Jerry McKinnis sat right here in this office, Jerry and Angie, and talked about high school fishing before Bass had it, and wanted
Right.
to know, they wanted to pick my brain a little bit about it. We sat here and talked about it, and I said the number one thing you should not do is charge these kids.
Right.
Figure out ways that you got. I mean, the Berkeleys and the Rapalas and all the people that are around, they're going to be chomping at the bit because this is the future buyer.
Yeah.
And let's get these kids when you're 18, charge them whatever you want to charge them. I don't care.
Right.
But until they're 18, make this thing so they're not paying. And
Right.
some have listened, some haven't. But I can tell you that I think the best way to get these kids enthused is just get them out there. Mike, you know it. I mean, you still get enthused about being out there fishing.
Yeah.
And
It keeps me young. I'm withering away, but it keeps me young. Like every time I'm out there, I feel 15 again, and I feel like you gave that story about going to the pond and getting ice cream. Like I have those memories too, and every time I go out, I'm there again.
Yeah.
Brings me back.
Yeah.
So it keeps you young. It keeps you youthful.
You were a young gun. When I started doing all this stuff, it was you and Skeet and Kevin, and everybody was a young gun. Now we're the old bent rifles, I mean,
Yeah.
what it is, but we still have the same enthusiasm we had when we started this thing. I do.
Yeah.
I fished a Tuesday nighter last night, went out and fished Tuesday nighter. We had one fish.
Yeah.
All right. We got fourth. That's how great our fisheries are, right? So there's
Exactly like New Jersey.
Yep. Well, we have to. Here's the thing: if we're going to have this many kids participating, I tell you all day long, the catching's the deal.
Yeah.
The fishing part, I mean, that's okay. You fish in the parking lot, but
Yeah.
it's the catching part.
Yeah.
So we've got to work on our fisheries. We got to make them better, and we got to make it so kids can catch fish. And if you have a kid you've never had out fishing, all right, and he goes out and he catches something, he's ate up. It's done.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
over. We got him.
Oh yeah.
And I always said if I could get the parent, I could get the kid. And if I got the kid, I got the parent, right? So the parents are the ones that are making this thing go. The only thing is we got to train the parents too. And I'm not very good at that. We've got parents that will buy their kid a boat, but don't have your skill level. Like Vegas is going to be a rock star. I mean, no question in my mind, because he's got your intuition, he's got your knowledge, and he's got your energy.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's going to be good for him.
Yeah. Well, I see it growing, and I hope we can find a balance, there between, the number of participants and all that stuff. And I hope it, I always envisioned that it would mirror other sports, where, a kid growing up loves baseball, for crying out loud. I'm 15 minutes from Millville, New Jersey, the home of Mike Trout. Right. So I always envisioned that it would be like that, where you come up through the high school and the leagues, the little leagues, and, you progress naturally through this system. Now, fishing's different, but I hope at some point it can get to that progression.
It kind of has.
Yeah.
Because, the learning curve of a baseball player is much longer. Even if they start, say at 17, they're a really good high school athlete. They go to college and they play. That window is a little, it's here. But for fishing, look how many young dudes we've got out that are just wrecking them. I mean,
crazy.
Lots of them, and that learning curve goes, whoop, it's real fast.
Crazy. And actually, that is a perfect segue point to something I had on my notes, which is exactly that. Which is, dude, these dudes are unbelievable, Terry, unbelievable. Like I'm watching Bass Pro Tour, or I sit back and watch the Final Cut on a day I didn't make it on the Elites. And I'm looking at these anglers, that many of them in their 20s, and my eyes are like that. And I really believe a lot of that increased learning curve that has happened because of the way we disseminate information, because of the way that the information is now available in the fishing industry. Talk about that. I want you to talk about that because, again, you're one of the guys I think that really changed that. Like I can remember being a kid, and the only way I could get information in New Jersey was my mailbox, every month, or TNN on the weekends. And it was very, very limited the way that I could consume information. And now after, you know, Bassmaster and Bass Fan and Wired to Fish and all these amazing tools. Dude, these kids are freaking hammers. I see it with Vegas. I come home and he's watching it on his tablet. He's thumbing through techniques and styles, and I'm blown away because I'm like, he's 12. He's freaking 12. Talk about that, because that change was just.
Well, there's 2 or 3 things. Technology changed a great deal. I mean,
yeah.
Some of it I like, and I like forward looking, and I like all that kind of stuff. I really do. I've got it on my boat, whatever. But I wonder, for the fan, are they getting anything out of it? When a guy stands and looks at a screen like this, makes a cast like that, watches the screen, watches him go, you know, is that good for the sport or is that bad for the sport? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I know this. Technology changed it. We're not using persimmon shafts in our drivers and golf clubs anymore.
Right.
Got to be able to move up to the next level there. I get excited because that 12-year-old that you're talking about, he probably knows more about electronics than I did even 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
100%.
My first depth finder was a rock on a float. I'd take them and let them drift, and they would drift up to a point, and they stop. Well, then I knew that's where the point was. Then we went to flashers. Woo-wee. Flashers were great, you know, and I still use one. I think they're great. And then you went to LCDs and LCRs and all this other kind. Now you're watching television.
Yeah.
And what's the next thing, you know, Mike? I mean, that's the thing, whether it's Lowrance, Garmin, whatever. This stuff is pretty crazy. And here's what happened. Here's the difference. Kids could always cast, and they had dexterity to be able to do that. But now they're way ahead of us because of the computer knowledge and the social media knowledge.
Yeah.
That there is like, you better stay up with it or you're going to get left behind, because I see these kids, you know, they got 4 graphs in their boat and they're 18 years old. Where do they get the money? That's the first thing, you know, where do you get the money? But anyway, they get excited about the technology. And I think that's really a big plus. A big plus is the technology.
Yeah. I'd agree with that. I watch Vegas do it, and I'm blown away. He's so good with, you know, that kind of stuff, and I'm not so good with it. But just I mean, the sheer way that guys are getting information is incredible. And
social media has changed again. We wouldn't be doing what we're doing right here,
right?
If it wasn't for the technology to allow us to do that and be able to pass on information.
Yeah. And there's good and bad, though. There's good and bad. And I'm glad you said that, because do you like this is a legitimate question, because I've asked myself this. Do you miss the good old days? And when I say good old days, instead of social media and digital content and this damn podcasting instead of radio, do you miss the good old days? Like a magazine in your hand, like feeling it, reading the print, you know, like, do you miss those days?
Yeah, I think I miss it from the standpoint is that I think we lose some things. I think ethics and integrity go away. There's nobody teaching that. I wish I'd have taught more of that, you know, when we did the high school thing. The problem you got is that there's got to be a middle ground. There's got to be a middle ground somewhere, right? Where technology ends and participation begins. And you can read all day long. When we first started high school fishing, I had guys I'd called, you know, they were squirrel hunters, and they were throwing them in the trees more than they were in the lake. And I had one kid, I called him Trip because he kept falling down in the boat all the time. So I called him Trip. And there's a lot of that stuff that's going on. But see, I think there has to be a happy medium. I think that where we're at right now is, I mean, I asked the question on my Facebook page the other day, would I really miss anything if I got off of social media? Would I miss anything?
Yeah.
And I got this long string of people going, no, you wouldn't miss a doggone thing. We'd miss your input, because I do a lot of stuff. You know, I mean, Mike, I'm building boats and monkeying around with boats all the time. Gig, and trying to figure out how to make this better, how to do this, how to do that, and try to show people along the way that I'm doing. Because I mean, I'm just a hill jack from Normal, Illinois, right? And I just like working on boats. That's what I'd rather do than anything.
Yeah.
And I try to pass that information on. Well, that was the comment that made me feel the best was, you're not gonna miss anything, but we'd miss that input. So yeah, and that I think that's what you're doing. That's what a lot of people are doing. As long as you've got your focus, as long as your focus is on the good,
right,
and not trying to get waypoints and all the stuff that's associated.
Yeah. Social media, it's a you know, for me, it's a balancing act, because it's from a business perspective and, you know, from a perspective of reaching people, It's like a must. But you know, it could also tear you down. Like I tell you, thank God I was born in New Jersey. Thank God I grew up right outside of Philadelphia, because man, it's hard. You know, one of the things in my career, you know, I've dealt with a lot of negativity, and I'm an outspoken person like you are. And I mean, you know, I speak my mind, and I've really, over the years, that's been even hard for a Jersey guy. You know, you never want to have people not like what you're doing, and people, you know, have a negative viewpoint of things you're doing. You know, that it hurts. I don't care if you have the thickest skin in the world, it still hurts. And
when you were in Philly and you won the tournament in Philly, did you get a hunger? Did you see a hunger in that crowd? I mean, I did. I watched that weigh in, and I watched you win, and I watched you win with your local people, and I watched that happen. There's a hunger out there that's not politics, that's not worrying about taxes, that's not all the other things that we have to deal with. There's a hunger out there. If we could reach that, if there's some sort of a button we could push, win again. We can make this America again, and that's what I'd like to see.
Yeah, it's magic. That magic energy that you're talking about. I wish you're right. I wish we knew a way to harness that, the good, positive magic energy, and then like another button that got rid of all the people that are just everything's, you know, you know, get rid of that and more of the positive. It would be.
We're going to be a target. Awesome. Here's something I'd like to leave you with, honestly, is the fact that we're going to be a target. Okay. Bow hunting now. You saw that, we don't, you know, we're not, if you're doing bow hunting or bow shooting in high school, we're taking your federal funds away.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to be a target because we've got, you know, PETA and all the rest of these people that are after us. So we got to fight the fight. You can sit in your own little corner, but you better be engaged. And the problem is a lot of people are afraid to be engaged. They're afraid, you know, for their job. They're afraid for other things. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm in the best of all worlds because I can say how I feel and what I want to do. And I'm not worried about what people say. You had a lot, you know, I can remember you and I talking on the radio a couple of times when you'd just been through a deal, right? And I just said, stay the course, course. Because I could see what Mike Iaconelli was about because I knew you.
Yeah.
You know, you and I talk about it. And one thing I can say I'm most proud of in my career is I've never thrown anybody under the bus that I'm, you know, ever. I've never tried. If somebody didn't want to talk about something, do you remember when George Cochran and Jim Bitter got into To Do down at Harris? Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Sure do.
Jim called me and he said, I want to be on the radio with you. I said, fine, but I'm going to have George on.
Right.
Goes, what do you mean? I said, I can't just have you on and not have George on. We got to have both sides of the story, right?
Right.
That was the most fun interview I think I've ever done because, you know, Grouchy Jim, I love Jim to death, right? You know, Jim, I used to travel with him, fish Red Man down in Florida a little bit. And then of course, George, Gentleman George, which is, I think is funny too. George too, you know? And so I had each one of them on the radio and tell their story. And what it ended up doing, I don't know if they even talk to each other anymore. I have no idea, but I know that there was a common ground that was created there.
Yeah.
That's what we have to look for is this common ground.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, is that archived somewwer?
I've got a copy of it somewhere here.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that's like, I'd pay for that. I would love to hear that.
You ought to hear, I mean, I've got radio interviews I did with people that are just hilarious because, I mean, I go back and listen to them once in a while when I get a few minutes and it's like, holy crap, you know, this is like antiquated. It's like, you know, it's like a cane pole, a bobber, man. You know, it's really funny. See, I'm trying to embrace the youth. I really am. I'm trying to embrace the new kids, you know, the guys that are winning, the young guys. But I still have an affinity with guys like Denny and Tommy Biffle and those guys. So I'm probably a rare duck because there's very few people my age that are chasing this still as hard as I am. You know, I mean, you don't see a lot of old gray-haired guys that are still in the media. There's just not very many of us.
Yeah.
And, you know, but I've got a love for the prior. And then I'm trying to embrace the young kids and trying to figure out what they're doing and how they do it and all that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you can't forget about the history of the sport. I mean, that for me is super, super important. It's part of the reason I went back to bass, you know, from MLF is it just felt more of a connection for me personally with that history of the sport. And we talked before when we were testing the mics here, the jersey in the back. I love it. Like that's the kind of stuff I see. And it I don't know, it makes me feel good because that's my connection too. You know, you mentioned all those names. And when I was 12, 13, 14, reading about those guys. That's what got me into the sport, you know? So I see an embroidered jersey hanging like that, and I'm like, my eyes are like, yes, yes.
The sponsors are great. You know, I had the opportunity a few times. I played a lot of golf back in the day, and I had an opportunity to play with Ben Crenshaw. And Ben Crenshaw was the best golfer I ever played with, and mainly because he could putt so well. But anyway, I'm playing with him, and we got about 4 or 5 holes in, and he says, you know what the most important thing to me in golf is? And I said, no, I have no idea. You know, the drive, the putt, what is it? And he said, no, it's history. You know, and he embraced history of the sport. It was funny. I played with him at Barton Creek down in Texas. And after that, like a month after that, he wins the Masters. So that was a kind of a neat deal. There's a lot of stories, I mean, there's a lot of crossover. We need to figure out ways to do with that. But our problem is right now is that how do we disseminate the right information? Not just information, but how do we disseminate the right information? And it includes history. As you're a student of it.
Oh yeah.
You know, you're a student of history, and I think our kids need to have that. You know, I fish with a 28-year-old kid who is a stud. He's a stick. He can really catch them. He went out to NPFL, fished there, and finished 9th in Angler of the Year. First time he ever fished tournaments national level, and he's really a good stick. But he doesn't embrace the history quite like maybe like a lot of other kids did. Now all of a sudden, because he's been with my old rear end, he starts looking at history a little bit.
Yeah.
I love it. You know, I'll catch him. I'll say, man, you know, did you know this used to be this way? He goes, no. He goes, you're kidding me. I know. That's the way it used to be, dude, you know? Yeah. And then he'll go, and then later he'll say something to me. His name's Taylor Umland, and he's a great kid. And he'll say something to me like, didn't you tell me once this, you know? And I go, yeah, that happened in 1968 or something. And, you know, and I've got socks that are older than he is.
Yeah.
So, you know, he's kept me young, sort of like Vegas will do for you.
Yeah.
You know, keeps you young, keeps you enthused. It's funny. I always fished out of the front of the boat. I was always very competitive. I always wanted to go out and wreck them and all that kind of stuff, right? I started fishing with him, and I said, take the front.
Yeah.
I said, you fish front. I said, no, you fish the front. And you make the decision, and you decide where we're going to go, and you decide what we're going to do. And the kids have become a really good angler.
It really, it's funny you said that because it really changes your perspective on the sport when you get a young guy or your children or a nephew or something like that. And for me in Vegas, it's been the same way. And I'm captaining him, trying to coach, but also trying to let him progress naturally on his own, right? You know, it's hard as a dad, as a coach, to watch failure, you know, to see mistakes. And you try to coach and steer that they don't make those mistakes. But they almost have to, right? You almost have to sit back and let them learn on their own and make those mistakes on their own, I think, to have the most impact, you know?
Well, I can tell you this. Being in the back of the boat sucks. I'll just be point blank. I'll say, you don't have any cast angles. You know, I'm fishing bubbles all the time. I tell him I'm pulling skiers because he goes real fast. So I'm, flipping a bank, and next thing I know it's behind me.
Yeah.
Now the back of the boat sucks.
Yeah.
But remember, Mike, when we started this in BASS and all this it was 2 anglers, you and, somebody else.
Always. Yeah.
Next to each other in the front of the boat fishing.
Yeah.
And that there's a change when everybody kind of went, well, we'll take and put this Marshall guy or somebody else in the back of the boat.
Yeah.
It changed the disposition because there were a lot of fights that occurred in the front of the boat. I wish I'd had a recorder a lot of times in the front of the boat when these 2 guys are going at it, right? I want that kind of stuff. I live for that.
Yeah.
I live for it. Anyway.
It's so good. Some of the stories, I've got some good ones too. I want to leave you one last thing before I let you go, Terry. And I've actually, I can't remember if I saw it written or if it was a podcast I was listening. I can't remember where I heard it, but you talked about something that I have talked about on Like Live in the past. And I'd be bad of me not to bring this up, is for the sport to get to the ultimate growth level. And you spoke to Denny about it. A lot of people are concerned, right? For it to get to its highest point, can there be all these leagues out here, right? We've got Bassmaster, we've got MLF, we've got NPFL, we've got all these leagues. Can they, I guess it's a dual question. Can they coexist? And does there have to be a point at where there's one professional league and not all these other leagues?
Well, you could rectify a little of that by having a championship between MLF and BASS. Okay, you can rectify it by having the top 10 classic guys. Remember Top Gun? Remember when we had that?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Awesome tournament. Awesome tournament.
Great time. Okay. But you have, if we were to say, and this is the covering of my stuff, hey, I got this nice shiny thing, but I'm not going to show it to you. How about we try to get along and try to grow the sport? Let's have a true championship where you have the top 10 from the Classic, top 10 from the MLF Red Crest, and let them go head to head. No information. We're going to put them on a secret lake. We're going to take them out there, give them a day of practice, whatever. I don't care. But let them go head to head, just like we did with Top Gun. We went down to Eagle Mountain, and we're down by Dallas when you were there. You were at it, and
it was
the coolest thing ever. We had Fishburne there, and we had all big screens and all that kind of jazz. That grew the sport, believe it or not, because that was prior to the PAA's deal.
Yep.
All right. So that was prior to all that. Scott Laney and Kumar and I had this idea. We had to figure out how we were going to pay for it, but we figured it out. You guys didn't pay an entry. We paid for your hotels.
Yep.
We did all that stuff. It was truly a national event, and it was very well attended at a Cabela's down in Fort Worth, Texas.
Yep.
So why can't we do that? But here's the problem. These two leagues, for some unknown reason, and I talked to Charlie Evans, I've talked to Kathy Fennell, I've talked to all the Bass folks. Let's put it together. What's it going to take?
Yeah.
You guys now have a Classic in February, and everybody's trying to step on each other and everything else.
Yeah.
How about we do a fall event? Boy, wouldn't that be unique? We do a fall event where we have a championship.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's get at it. Let's do it.
It's crazy. And I guess the question's why? Like, why haven't these leagues come to terms with each other, right? If they're all trying to coexist in the same space, it baffles me why. And I'm not ever going to sit here and place the blame on one of the leagues. Why is one, putting the tournament on the same week, or why is one trying to trump, why are they making it so you can't attend a championship event because there's another event? Or I don't understand what. And you have the inside, Terry. You know these people better than anybody, including me. Why? Why is that?
I think because of when things were started in an adversarial relationship. When MLF started, it was Barry Bass, okay? And they could say what they want to, that wasn't the case, but it was.
Right.
And what we have to do is, okay, that happened, 10 years ago now?
It's gone on a long time.
Get over it. Get over it. Grow up. You're a grown man. Let's get it so that we try to work together. Why would you not want to have your league do well, the other league do well, and then have a championship at the end? Why would you not want that? It's like a voter ID card. Why would you not want that? Right?
Yeah.
So let's try to figure out. People like you, Mike, can make a difference. I'm just an old hillbilly from Northern Illinois, but I can tell you this. I've said it to them all. And why don't, and they've got their reasons, and they're probably legitimate reasons, right? I'm not going to work with them. They're a pain in the butt. That's what they're going to say, both of them.
Yeah.
I know those guys. I know them. And if I could sit at a table with three from here, and go, here's my reasoning. Here's how you win. Because we're all robbing from the same bucket. Sponsorship dollars.
Yes.
How much money can Mercury and Yamaha and Lowrance and Garmin put into both leagues?
Yeah. All of us are, right. It's not just the leagues, but the anglers, the media, like everyone is trying to reach for the same one and pulling in different directions. Is it, you brought something up and I feel responsible too, because I'm an angler. Do the anglers have a responsibility to help make this happen?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You have the strongest voice.
Yeah.
Here's I always said the best tournament to win in any career is the last one of the season. And like, I can remember Dean Rojas won a tournament at the very end of the year, and he got to have 6 months to relish in his glory, right?
Yeah.
6 months. And I told him one time, I said, this has got to be the best of all worlds for you to do that, because now you got a tournament here. A week later, somebody else wins one. A week later, somebody else wins one. I can't keep track of it, and that's what I do for a living. Who the hell just won last week? I can't remember. Who
confusing.
won that?
Yeah, very confusing.
Yeah, and so why don't we? And then let's elevate the position of the press. Elevate people to say, look, I'm going to pick that guy, that guy, that guy, and that guy because I know they're going to be honest and they're going to tell the truth.
Yeah.
And you're going to be the ones that get to cover this. You're going to get special media credentials. You're going to get to do this. We're going to do TV. We're going to have all this stuff going on. That's what enthuses me yet about where we could get to.
Yeah.
We don't have much non-endemic at all in our sport. I'm
Right.
digging around trying to figure out, can I get a bucket company or somebody all the time, because that's what I do. But we need more non-endemic sponsors. Here's the problem we had with non-endemic. You were involved in some of this. You have a big automotive company. They come in, they need an extension cord. Get your own damn extension cord. That's what we did. We didn't
Right.
fulfill their obligations, right?
Right.
They come to a tournament and they go, I need this, I need that. Figure it out yourself. I got to go over here and I got to weigh fish, or I got to do this or that. Fulfillment of that advertiser, and they don't get it fishing. They don't get fishing.
Right.
We need a primer where Mike Iaconelli talks about what this is really about, why this is important, why this is our life. We need that.
Yeah.
And if we had just a little bit of fulfillment with some of these non-endemics. I see Toyota and they're hanging tough. I love Toyota because they're hanging tough. And, they've got a great vehicle and they've been with the sport a long, long time. Dynamics doing a great job with them. But we need more of them. We're Chevrolet. We had Chevrolet. And here's how you can tell if you make a mark. Drive to any parking lot when you have a big tournament, when you have a 100-boat tournament. Yeah. See what trucks are in the parking lot.
Right.
All right. I can assure you 80% of them are Toyotas right now. And that didn't happen overnight, but it happened.
Yeah. It happened. It happened for sure.
It used to be all Chevys.
Yeah.
Ford's never been in a game. Dodge, a little bit. Maybe once in a while. Ram, they were in it for a while. That's one we could start with. Let's start with trucks. Let's get all these trucks involved. Let's get automotive companies involved. There's so much crossover.
How do we do that? Like that for sure is the key. Because when I look at other sports, I look at any of the other major sports. Man, you hit it right on the head, Terry. Every automotive brand is there. We got watches and food and drinks and in the fishing industry, it's never been there. And I guess how do we do that? Is it pure sales? Do we not get the same numbers? Is there a TV connection?
I think I've got an idea, and I'll tell you, I'm going to fall back on an old story. I put together a lieutenant governor's tournament in the state of Illinois where the lieutenant governor was agreeable that we were going to get politicians and take them fishing, right?
Yeah.
So we went on one weekend, we took legislators and they didn't know sickum about fishing. They had no idea. They enjoyed the time, but they didn't know anything about it. But you watch legislation that occurs afterwards, and all of a sudden, somebody that didn't get a rip about the stream or the river or the lake did. All right, They voted in favor of what you're doing. Why don't we do that with advertisers? See, that's that covering of the shiny thing, right? If I got AutoZone to come in, I don't want to tell him I got AutoZone because then he's going to steal them from me.
Right.
You remember the old days when the leagues would take people that you might have as an advertiser. You'd bring a guy in, and next thing you know, they're whining and dining him and taking them to Super Bowls and all that. And you lost them. You lost them as an angler, right? Yep. That happened over and over, and I heard it over and over and over again. I'm not going to tell them anything. But the angler, here's how you do it. You say, guys, we could have the Super Bowl. All we got to do is set it up, get somebody to run it, and you got to get along.
Yeah.
I've told them many times, I'll sit at a table with you. I'll help you. I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm not at BASS or MLF, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. Let's figure out how to do it. And what's it going to hurt?
Yeah.
Top Gun didn't hurt a doggone thing. It was great.
No.
The PAA had their deal. Didn't hurt a thing.
Right. Yeah.
Let's try to bring some people in and do it in a venue that gets people enthused, and then have people go out and work for the good of the fish, good of the sport versus the good of themselves.
Yeah.
That would be the way to work it.
That would be awesome, and that needs to happen. I see that day coming, and
now that Kevin's retired, we're going to get him involved.
Well, listen, everybody listens to Kevin. That's the great thing about Kevin is not only is he the best angler to ever live, which he is, but he's everybody likes him. He's the opposite of me, which is great. We might need a guy like that to help this come together. We might need a guy like you, though.
Yeah, but here's what I said. Here's what I've said about you, and I'm gonna go on record. You're gonna hear it here on iCloud. Right? People that know you do not feel the same way as people that see you from the outside. You're maligned. I've said that many times to you personally, and I've seen that happen. Your enthusiasm scares the crap out of some people, right?
Yeah.
But your energy doesn't scare the crap out of me. Your energy is I want to be next. I want to learn everything I can from you. I want to be right with you. That is what I've said since day one when we met, and that's what I say today. And here's the deal. if somebody knows you, they love you. And if you can't worry about the haters because I've got them, right? I got the same group. So let's do what we can do. Let's pool our energy. Let's get the Denny Browers and the Kevin Van Dams and the Skeet Reeses and the Mike Iaconellis and say, look, we're pushing for this. Yeah. And if we have to hold our own, maybe that's what we do, because that's what we did with Top Gun. Yeah. All right. We couldn't get those guys. It was herding cats. We couldn't get either one of them to cooperate. So we just did it ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's when you got to get creative, and that's where you got to come up with a little bit of dough. But it would seem to work pretty good with Top Gun.
And really good.
Let's do it. Let's have a Super Bowl. I'm all in. I'm all in.
I'm all in too. Man, I love it because I think the buzzword of this whole interview today was there's still room for growth.
Absolutely.
You're watching this or listen to this. Listen, fishing is not peaked. It's not hit a roadblock. I think there's room for growth. You've seen it with the high school program. Terry, thank you for helping start that thing. Unbelievable. You've seen it with information. We can do the same thing with the leagues. Get along, come up with a common goal. There's still room for growth. 100%.
I'll leave you with this. I'm going to get off of here after this, but I'll leave you with this. We're always going to have bumps, and we're always going to have potholes. And in Illinois, we have a lot of both, okay? But what we have to do is be able to get around those or through those. The problem is that Major League Baseball, NBA, NFL, all have had the same bumps and the same potholes, right? But they continue to grow. That's what we have to do. Let's figure it out. Let's work together and figure it out.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's not like other sports haven't had issues too. And the other thing to keep in perspective, I wish all this would happen now, but bass fishing is still pretty young when you compare it to baseball or football, right? We're basically from the 70s, so we're a young sport, but man, do you think what we're talking about, will this happen in our lifetime, Terry?
Yeah,
or is this?
I hope so.
I hope so too.
I'm planning on living till I'm 130, but at the present rate, I'm not sure I'm going to make it. But I can tell you that I'm a big believer in looking for the next guy. Okay, when I'm doing what I do, and sometimes people wonder what it is, but when I do what I do, I want to have the next guy standing in line, the Taylor Umlins and the kids that are coming along. I want to have the next guy in line. I've been a president of several organizations in our area, Friends of Reservoirs and our bass clubs and all that kind of stuff. And the whole time I'm doing it, I'm looking for the next guy.
Right.
I wasn't worried about feathering my own nest. I was worried about the next guy.
Yeah.
Well, we do that as anglers, and we do that as a sport. We can win this thing. We can make this really special. You're not going to make everybody happy. You're not. It isn't going to happen. But let's do the best we can to get 80% of them happy.
Yeah, I agree.
It's really funny. Fishing is okay, but catching's where it's at, right?
Yep.
Okay, let's get the catching part going. Let's get the catching part going in our sport, and I think we'll win. I think we will. Yeah,
man, what a great little motto to leave this podcast with, Terry. Thank you for coming on. I don't know why the hell it took so long to get you on Ike Live, but I'm so glad you came on. Keep doing what you're doing. You've been a friend of mine and a friend of the sport forever. And thank you for coming on the show today. I appreciate it.
It'll never change, Mike. Thank you for having me.
That's awesome. And by the way, was it you that had the nickname or I had the nickname? This is honestly, I know we keep saying we're ending the podcast, but I'm honestly going to end it here. Who is Hen Wee? Was that me?
Yeah, 5 classics ago, you were trying to get a name tag. Right? You probably got it in there on the wall somewhere.
It might. This is like a shrine of stuff in here.
Oh, yeah, it is. I'm a collector, too. Don't call yourself a collector. I ought to see this place. I mean, it's a mess, right? But Hen Wee, I'm walking around, and on your name tag, you had written with a magic marker, Hen Wee. I died. So when we're dialoguing back and forth and they see, hey, nice job, Hen Wee, or happy birthday, Hen Wee. That's the gig. You did it. It was all you.
That's awesome. Well, Terry, thank you for coming on, and we run into each other all the time. So look forward to seeing you in the future, and keep pushing, man. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing amazing things.
Take care of your kids and tell Becky I said hi.
Will do. Thank you. Appreciate it, Terry.
You bet. See you, Mike.
All right. There you got it, guys. Terry Brown. Yes. So excited to have him on the show. And listen, he's one of those guys, and I'm not kidding you. He won't talk about himself. Like, you have to corner him on these podcasts to make him talk about what he did. And it's so amazing. Thank you, Terry. Just so cool to see the fruits of his labor all these years later. High school, college, things like Bass Fan and Wired to Fish and podcasting. Like, all this is an early brainchild of Terry's, and it's great to hear him talk about that. Very humble guy. We appreciate him. Let me remind you, if you're watching this and you want to help out with the Ike Foundation, head on over to IkeFoundation.org. Well, we're here to get kids fishing. We've got 2 events coming up. Kayak event over on Lake Nakamixon. I want to say it's like September 11th. And then maybe like right around the same time, a week before, a week after, we have the last Ike Foundation Kids Tournament over on Newton Lake. We need kids and we need captains. So if you're watching, if you live in New York, Pennsylvania, Maryland, somewhere like that, New Jersey, if you want to help out, head on over to IkeFoundation.org and get some great information over there. And then last but not least, we want to hear what you have to say. If you love this new format, let us know. If you hate it, let us know. Also comments, because this new format is not technically live, we need your comments. So if you have ideas on guests or topics or things you'd like to hear or see, please let us know. And we want to hear from you. So thank you for tuning in. We've got some great guests coming up in the next couple shows. Tune in and hope you have a great day. All right, if I can find the outro here, I'm going to play it for you. I guess it's this one. So have a good one and see you in the next podcast. Bye.
Right now where we're standing, we're in Camden, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Philadelphia is right there. This is the concrete jungle. And, a lot of those kids, as they grow up, they don't fish. It's interesting because they're surrounded by water, the Delaware River, the Schuylkill, ponds, city park lakes, but they don't have the influence to cast, to fish, to have a rod and reel. And that became our focus, is to target kids in what we call non-traditional areas, urban areas, city centers, where the population's high, and let these kids have the experience. It's amazing. I mean, some of the experiences we've had, whether it's Central Park in New York City, here in Camden, other parts of the country, even just casting.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable to see it, isn't it?
Yes.
It's unbelievable.
Yes.
And you see these kids have this experience they've never had, and they light up, The big thing, I think, for the Ike Foundation is we're not saying we want all these kids to become professional anglers.
Yeah.
It'd be great if some of them did, but we want them to have that fishing experience because it ties them to so many other positive things. The outdoors, nature, conservation. Ecology, all these amazing things in life that maybe they wouldn't have been exposed to any other way. We're trying to help with that. So it's important. It's important for us.
Yeah.
We're proud of it.
I subscribe to Bass U TV, and so should you.
Great place to learn about anything you want to know about bass fishing.
You get it at Bass U. We got the best of the best.
I'm not just an instructor, I'm a subscriber.
I'm John Cruz, and I am a subscriber.
You can always learn, and watching Bass U definitely helps with that. It's something that I like to do, and it's definitely something that you need to do.
If I'm still learning, you should be too.
Subscribe to Bass U because you'll learn how to catch a lot more fish.